Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Alton West. Today I have a guest on from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, along with a guest from the LaGrange Police Department. So you want to make sure that you stay tuned for those interviews in just a moment. Welcome back to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have a guest on from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I have Park Ranger Rocky Millenbein. Rocky, welcome to the show.
Alton, thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to sit down with you. I know that last year I think we were together out at Whitetails when we did a show out there, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on.
That's right.
But today I know that you're here to talk a little bit about something that I know that a lot of the recreational users of the lake would just love to hear about. But before we get into that, talk a little bit about your role as a park ranger.
Well, as a park ranger, I get to do so many fun things. It's really a great job and I love doing it. Number one, I love being outside, and I have a job that allows me to be outside, and I also love people, so I get to combine those two things. I get to be in our campgrounds and visit with our folks. I get to be out on the water and visit with the fishermen and the recreational boaters. It's such a large facet, but you know, the Corps, we have a 26,000 acre lake here, West Point Lake. It's a beautiful lake, and we've got another 30,000 acres that we manage for recreational purposes.
Right.
So I'm just kind of get to deal with all of it, so it's a wonderful job.
Well, you know, you said something, being outdoors, and that's why I like my job, because I get an opportunity to be outside when it's really nice, and then when it's kind of icky outside, yeah. I can be inside as well.
There's always paperwork
That's
to
right.
do, isn't there?
Absolutely. So, and you're talking about being outside and the recreational use of our 26,000 acre lake. Boating is something that I know that comes, to mind as the weather gets warmer and people are traveling down, and with all the rain that we've gotten lately here, the lake looks absolutely gorgeous.
It sure does.
Talk a little bit about boating, and I know that a moment or so after we could talk about it, I think you brought a video along.
I did.
We'll show too. Talk about some boating safety tips, if you don't mind.
Well, right now is really the kickoff of boating season. So we just want to remind everyone to be safe around the water. You know, we have this wonderful lake and it's here for everybody to use, but it's very important that people know how to use it safely. You know, the last thing we ever want to see is, someone go out in their boat with their family and not be able to come back. And the video you mentioned, it's kind of a little story about a mishap that happened on the water and how just a dad and his son went out to enjoy a day on the lake, and they didn't take necessarily the safety precautions that they needed to, and how things can turn south pretty quick.
Absolutely, and that's so tragic, because like you said, the beautiful lake and the beautiful day that you're out there, and people are out having a good time on the lake. So we definitely want people to understand, as the weather gets warmer, by all means, take those necessary extra minutes to make themselves safe. Okay?
Absolutely.
How about, let's do this, Rocky, if you don't mind, because you have a video, and definitely, I'm sure it has a lot of great points. Let's just go ahead and show the video to the viewers, and then after the video, we'll come back and comment about it, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, just a second. Ladies and gentlemen, just watch this video.
Brian and Nathan love to go out, get on that boat, plink around, fish for crappie, or anything that will bite. Normal activities of part of growing up in father and son relationships. We did it when Brian was a kid. My name is Craig Keese. I am the father and grandfather of Brian, age 36, and Nathan, age 8. Brian and Nathan got up at the campground early on Saturday morning. It was cold and windy. They decided to delay going out on the lake about 2 hours till about 10 o'clock and re-look at the weather. The weather was still cold and windy. In addition to that, a front was moving in which they had no knowledge of. They proceeded, got out on the lake, began fishing, really fairly close to where they put in. For whatever reason, they did not put on the life jackets. Both my wife and myself really agonized over things like for what reason they didn't have the life jackets on that day. Normally, even in all the pictures that we have that Brian and Nathan took on their fishing trips, they always had on life jackets.
I believe a life vest is almost like wearing a seatbelt in a car, only the life vest goes with the boat. It's the best thing for the operator, for all passengers to have them on, make sure they're properly fitted, properly sized, and make sure they're properly fastened, to where if an incident were to occur or a person were to become unconscious, that life vest would stay with that individual. Anybody should wear one, regardless of age, gender, swimming capabilities, no matter what they're doing, whether they're involved in water sports on a personal watercraft or they're a duck hunter out on a river with no one around. I believe it's important to wear that, regardless of your background.
Most people don't know that 90% of people that drown never tend to get in the water in the first place. Unintentionally getting in the water, there's the body's natural reaction to have a gasp reflex. Unfortunately, people that unintentionally get in the water, sometimes that's head first, and they usually end up with basically lungs full of water. One of the things I'd like for people to remember while they're on the water, weather is an ever-changing event, and you need to be ready to change to those events. Always having your life jacket on while you're on the water just helps increase your chance of survival and getting back home safe to your family.
The boat was found by another boater, capsized, I think around 11:30, and had been blown almost 2 miles across the lake to the other side of the lake. Then the search parties began looking at the banks, brought in a helicopter. The bass fishermen were having a tournament at that time. They stopped the bass tournament, and the bass fishermen started looking for them. And they looked until they had to quit on Friday night. When we got to the campground and saw the situation, we knew there was no hope. And that is a devastating, indescribable part of our lives.
Personally, you came to work each day wanting to have an end to it, but at the same time, you didn't want to be the person to find him. As the search continued longer and longer, you knew it was going to get worse and worse of what you found. Being a father now, I can't imagine the time that Brian's wife or Craig Case went through with the extreme loss of their family.
When you lose someone at a young age, both of them at young ages that have great opportunities, it takes its toll. What we decided to do was take that energy, that sadness, and try to put it into some form that one honored them, and for goodness sake, maybe getting the message out to the public. Looking at life jacket wear numbers or data such as that, they don't understand until they go through it, and then they understand it. And so we decided to speak out and be active and raise money and do whatever we could in cooperating with any partners that want to work with us. It's not easy. We put up probably 10 to 12 life jacket loaner boards. I have gone to every one of them. I've had to speak out at each one of them, and I always get emotional. I can't help it, sitting there looking at them. That's just the way it is. The reason for that stark image is to try to get somebody's attention. My wife made a comment at the lake while we were just holding each other, and just about what a waste of humanity. Gold. And so we decided then, we hope we could make an effort so other people could learn from this and not have to go back, not have to deal with this. Nobody goes to the lake mentally expecting an accident or to drown.
Well, we just saw the video on boating safety tips there, and Rocky, that was kind of, you know, a little tragic there. Talk a little bit about that. The dad and the son went out. Talk about some of the things that they just saw there in the water.
Well, I think the first thing that you really want to point out is that the weather was bad to begin with, and they delayed their trip out by a couple hours, but they still decided to go on out, and the weather turned to the south. It turned bad on them, and that can happen here at West Point Lake too, especially in the summertime when it's hot outside. We'll get these storms that really pop out, and the water can get really rough in these times. So we always want people to kind of keep an eye to the sky. You know, anymore we have apps on our phone, and we have all these things that can help us keep an eye on the weather, and also if you have a marine radio, you can check the weather at any time. So we want to make sure that people understand it's important to keep an eye on the sky and make sure that the weather is cooperating. And if the weather is looking like it's getting bad, get off the water because it can get dangerous out there.
Absolutely. You know, it was also pointed out there that there's a number of deaths that occur as a result of boating incidents. Just talk about that for us.
You know, 3,400 drownings a year in the United States. That's pretty shocking.
Absolutely.
And 700 of those are boating related accidents. So, you know, that's something that it hits home. You know, at Alton, at West Point Lake, we have had 101 drownings since 1975 when the lake was impounded. And, you know, so many of them, I've had to deal with a lot of drownings, unfortunately, is they could be preventable by just putting on your life jacket.
Absolutely. And the key word that you said, preventable. Of those 3,400 to 700 you say are preventable, just taking that extra time, doing those things. And let me ask the question too, Rocky, because I know a lot of times when individuals out boating, we like to boat and we like to recreational drink as well. How many of those 101 deaths you think happened here in Troup County may have had a combination?
You know, I'm not real sure how far those stats go back and could tell you that, but I tell you what, it's a prevalent issue because people, you know, who drink regularly, they kind of know how their body reacts. Well, when you're out in the sun all day on the boat, your body, the alcohol has a greater effect. You're dehydrated. It's hot outside. You're active, and the amount of alcohol that normally you could handle, you know, when you're out on the water, it completely changes. It's going to have a much more of an effect, and it'll have a quicker effect.
Quicker effect there. Absolutely.
So it's important that people always remember to make sure that there's somebody sober there to operate the boat.
That's right, absolutely. Well, Rocky, it's been a great pleasure sitting down with you again, but before we close up, I just want to invite our viewing audience, because I know that you're going to be doing a show out on the 31st. Go ahead and talk about that and invite them.
You know, we're having our annual Lake Day shows at Amity Campground on May 31st, and we invite everybody to come on out and see the shows. We're actually shooting 3 shows.
That's right.
My show, the West Point Lake Update, your show.
That's right.
And then also the cooking show.
That's
so
right.
It's going to be a great day. We invite everybody to come out. We're going to let them in for free. They get to see the shows being shot, and we usually even have food out there for them.
There you go. We got healthy cooking with Chef Jeff as well will be there as well. That's right. So we're looking for a big day. So again, come on out May 31st, get a chance to meet Rocky, myself, and maybe even get a sandwich or two, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There we go. Rocky, thank you so very much for coming into this morning, sharing his boating safety tips, and we hope that our viewing audience have heard and take heed to what you just said and the video as well.
Absolutely. So, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back for more City Week in just a moment.
Last June, a tragic accident occurred on Lake Lanier that claimed the lives of 2 young brothers, Jake and Griffin Prince. As a result, Governor Deal vowed to work with the legislature to pass legislation in honor of these 2 brothers.
.08 becomes the law both on the water and behind the wheel on the roads for drunk driving.
This change makes boating under the influence the same as driving under the influence. So this is where the rudder meets the road.
To that end, our agency will be partnering with the Department of Natural Resources here at the boat ramps and on the highways to ensure
that it is an incident that does not occur, to the best of our ability to remove not only the folks on the roadways, but to assist the rangers on removing them from the waterways.
We begin now working with our partners on the waterways to make boating under the influence an equally unacceptable practice.
So if you're a citizen, a boater, it may become a very common sight that this blue shirt will be a welcoming committee here at the boat ramps, whether you're putting in or whether you're coming out.
Welcome back to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today my guest is on from the LaGrange Police Department. From the Traffic Division, I have Patrolman Wesley Engel. Wesley, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Alton. How you doing?
I am doing wonderful. You know, it's been many days that I wore that blue uniform.
That's right.
I kind of sort of miss it sometimes. But
on,
you know
we need
what?
some help.
I always need some help. But you know what? I'm going to leave it for the younger guys now, like yourself. Well, look, Wesley, it's a pleasure to sit down with you. But, you know, as we're getting ready to enter into the summer and our graduation, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We know that our young people are going to be out and about doing more driving because they're going to be out of school, and we want them to be safe. But before we get into all that, talk a little bit about your role there with the Traffic Division.
I'm currently assigned to Traffic Division. I work during the day, and my hours are flexible depending on the needs. I work most of the accidents in LaGrange, and any serious injury or fatality accidents. And then we do traffic enforcement to try to educate the public, hey, you know, be a little more careful, don't do this, you know, slow down, and to try to make it safe for them and everybody else on the roadway, because, you know, as time goes on, more and more people are driving, and more families, you know, used to have like one car. Now it's like, if you got a couple kids, they got a car, you got a car, mom and dad's both working and going to school too. Some of them are going to school, and you know, it seems like everybody's got to have a car to get around. It's not like we, you know, and back a long time ago, you can kind of walk to work or get a bicycle. I don't know as high as gas is. We probably wish we had a bike.
That's right, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, you said something very traffic enforcement. People have to understand that you all are there to help them to be safe and not necessarily to write tickets or anything of that nature. And talk about that just a little bit.
It's basically an education process. You know, we do offer defensive driving class. Somebody that has a good driving record and just kind of, you know, got in a hurry or had a lot on their mind, or just wouldn't pay attention, had so much on their mind and had an accident, or was kind of speeding a little bit, and basically they take the class. And it's not that people are saying they can't drive, it just kind of gives you them little pointers that, you know, as we go through life and start to get busy and occupied, oh yeah, I need to try to remember to do that, you know, to try to make it safer for me and try to avoid myself from being in an accident and stuff like that. So it's a real good class. It's an 7 or 8 hour class. Sergeant Armstrong and Sergeant McCoy teach it, and it's on a Saturday, so it's, you know, it's kind of bummer you got to do it on a Saturday, but you know, it's a good thing. You know, you can take it to your insurance and possibly get a discount on your insurance.
That's right. I was going to ask that question.
Yes,
you still get the insurance discount. Very good. So it's worth the time there if you can save, you know, 10%, 20%, or whatever the case may be there, you know, in your insurance.
Well, that's part of the, you know, the new provision license they got now. You know, back when I had my license, you just kind of went from a permit to a regular license, and a lot of people don't understand there's a lot more cars out here now, and there's a lot more responsibility and stuff, and there's so much more going on with the technology we got now and everything. And so now they have the provisional license, which I think is a real great thing. It kind of, you know, for the first 6 months, a teenager is supposed to have an immediate family in there, and it gives them time to, you know, to learn the roads and try to get in there, used to, you know, turning signals, watching the lights, watching pedestrians, watching children playing, and watching other cars and stuff. Then, you know, it progresses up to eventually, you know, they actually get a Class C when they turn 18. And a lot of them tend to don't do that, but the Class D has certain provisions on it. You know, like you might be going to college at 19 years old, and if you're out past midnight in Georgia, they can give you a citation between 12 if you don't go down and get your Class D and change it to a Class C. And also, you know, there's certain violations with the Class D. They go by the class of your license, like a Class C. There's certain violations you just get points, where Class D, they could actually end up losing their license. And so I try to tell as many 18-year-olds, hey, when you get 18, change it to a Class C. And then, you know, they go from the sideways, and when they get 21, they got to go back and change it again, where just regular license like everybody else has.
That's right. And they have to understand, our young people have to understand, and any of us that have a license, we have to understand it's a privilege to
That's
have
correct.
that license.
It
it's
is.
not a right, correct?
That's right. That is exactly
Absolutely.
correct.
Absolutely. Well, you know, these are all very good things that, you know, the people need to take into heed, not only our younger folks, but some of us older folks as well, because like you said, the distractions that we have in our cars nowadays, the radio, the phones, or kids, or whatever the case may be, you know, we just need to pay a little bit more attention and slow it down, as you stated
Yes,
there. And let's talk a little bit about graduation, because I know that graduation's coming up. Kids may be excited, go out and have a little bit of, you know, celebration. Talk about that for us, Wes.
Well, you know, you got 3 schools here. You got Callaway, it's going to graduate a certain day. Then you got LaGrange High, it's going to graduate. Then you got Troup County. And, you know, graduating from high school is a big moment because it's a major step in their life because, you know, some of them's going to go out in the work field, so they're not going to be able to hang out at football games, stuff like that, like they normally do. They're going to start going out and start working and having a regular schedule and stuff. And then you got a lot of kids that's going to go from LaGrange and go to college, or whether it's a trade school college or some type of a 4-year college, and they're going to be going to different areas. You know, like in LaGrange, you don't have a lot of parallel parking, but you could end up going to a major college and stuff. And graduation, they're going to be excited. The parents are going to be proud of them, and their friends, they're going to be getting together. And a lot of times, you know, the guy you've been hanging out with since kindergarten, he might be going off to a major college, and he might be going to California. You might be going up to the East Coast. And it's going to be a while, so they tend to get out and have a good time. And you know, and they're not legally supposed to drink, and you know, because they're under 21.
That's right.
But, you know, they're teenagers, and, you know, they're going to have a good time and start celebrating. Not only that, not only drinking, but they might go out and graduate and get out in the hot sun all day, get dehydrated from not drinking water, for having a good time, and then also be exhausted. You know, they could stay out, you know, so late with their friends. They're not used to staying up that late at night and can be exhausted, and that can endanger their lives for safety. And I always encourage people, you know, if you did have something to drink, or if you're too tired, you know, it ain't like you got to hunt up a payphone like you do now. Everybody's got a cell phone. It's a magnificent technology and tool. You know, why not pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I'm a little tired," or, you know, I can't make it. I'm exhausted. You know, can you come pick me up? Or even a good friend.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know, everybody's got a friend, or their parents would gladly come pick them up and take them home and go get your car the next day.
That's right.
Or even if you didn't have that option, you do have a cab. You could take a cab and, you know, take a cab and get your car, then have a friend or your parent, maybe it's late at night and you don't want to disturb them, and have them bring you back the next day and get your car. Just make sure that, you know, wherever you're at, you lock your car up and lock your valuables up. And take your keys with you, or kind of let somebody know, hey, I'm going to leave my car at your house and I'm going to pick up tomorrow sometime.
Absolutely. You know, all very good tips there, Wes, because of the fact that our young people, and as well as our older folks, have to realize that, you know, drinking and driving is against the law.
Yes, sir.
And in order for them to understand, they need to kind of understand what happens when a person has been charged with a DUI offense. Talk a little bit about what happens there.
Well, if they're under 21, all they have to do is register a .02, which is actually less than a glass of wine or beer or a shot of liquor. And they also, even if they're less than a .02, they could be charged with minor consumption.
Okay.
And if you're 02 or higher, you got a lot of things. You know, you can go in jail. You could lose your license and stuff like that, and you get some fines and stuff like that. And you know, that'd be a tragic. You know, or you could get hurt. You know, here you're going to college. You know, and you know, maybe you had a few drink, and you know, and then you had an accident. Something could have happened, or you could have hurt somebody, or you know, you lost your license, so now you can't. It's going to be, you know, maybe you're going from staying at home with Mom and Dad, and you're going to go to school in Atlanta somewhere or something, and you're going to need your license to drive.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't realize that. And then, you know, over 21, you just got to be a .08 or higher to be charged driving. Everybody thinks, you know, drunk driving is actually driving on the influence, which is basically you're driving where you're impaired to your driving.
Right.
It slow down your reflexes. Is, you know, it's going to give you a few seconds that, you know, you're going to have to, instead of 3/4 of a second, which is average for a person to react to something, it's going to take you longer. Okay, then, you know, if you've been out working all day, or been out playing all day, or playing sports or something, and you're drinking, you're tired, it's going to make you more tired, you know, where you might fall asleep. And it's going to impair your decision as far as, you know, pulling out in front of the car, or trying to run up to that yellow light and try to run through it, you know, or not paying attention and stuff like that, and you end up getting hurt. And then you got if you're a .051 to a .079 and you're involved in an accident, you can be charged driving under the influence.
Okay.
So
serious consequences that go along with it.
And then other things, aspects, you got the fine part. Then you know,
that's
I mean,
right.
how many of us actually go to work? We live close enough to work where we could walk to work.
Right.
Most of us take a car. That's why there's so many cars out here. And then you know, you got the fines, and you got your insurance that's going to raise, and you know, everybody's on a budget. You know, everybody's trying to, you know, get that little budget. Now, if you got to pay additional charges of that for a lawyer or your court fines, and then you got to find a way to work or find a way to school. And then you got the aspect of your insurance possibly going up, your car insurance and all that. And this is going to put a hindrance, especially, you know, if you're trying to go to college. And some kids, you know, their parents might not be able to help them out. They go to college on their own. They're paying their way.
That's right.
You know, and that little extra expenses that they could use towards something else in college.
And you know, it's such a domino effect there. And you were mentioning about, you know, the consequences there, and we didn't even mention accidents yet.
No,
One of the things, you know, and if you don't mind, talk a little bit, because you know we have seen some severe accidents as a result of drinking and driving. But I just want to talk a little bit about one that we see sometimes that people may not pay a lot of attention to, and that's improper backing, and particularly on private property. How does the police department handle that?
Well, on private property, we actually apply the state laws to the private property. You know, certain offenses you can't be like, if you're on a roadway and you hit somebody in the rear, you're following too close. And then, you know, depending on the damage, you know, our policy is if it's over $500 worth of damage, if you stop look at it, that's not a lot of damage. That's not going to take much.
That's right.
With the car or a fender or a paint job. We look at the following too closely, which is mainly following too closely, fail to yield the right of way. Even in a parking lot, you can fail to yield the right of way.
Right.
There's stop signs in parking lots. And the major thing is improper backing. You know, you got to be able to back the car up safely without hitting something, hitting another car, and without stopping the flow of traffic.
That's right.
And a lot of people, you know, you need to look to your left, look to your right, slowly ease out of that parking spot, and keep looking, you know. And also a pedestrian could walk up behind you, walking through the parking lot, or a small child. It's summertime. A lot of parents are going to be taking their kids with them to shopping at Walmart or the grocery store, due to the fact that the kids are fixing to be out of school in a couple of weeks. And, you know, all of that too. And then, you know, you figure you involved in an accident, you know, if you don't get a citation or something, you know, you're looking at the fact, you know, unfortunately, you know, if you tear your car up, it ain't like you can just take it down the next day. Sometimes you got to get a rental car.
That's right.
And then you got to make an appointment to get it, you know, because there's certain places people want to take their car and get it fixed because, you know, they've had good experience and everything with them. And if, you know, then you got the inconvenience of not having a car or trying to get your rental car or your insurance going up and you got to pay for somebody else's car. Then you got your deductible you got to come up with.
That's right.
So, you know, you got to look at the fact, is it worth the waiting that few seconds? Yeah. You know, look around, you look, you know, and a lot of times it's picking the parking spot, which helps a lot. You know, you got some, you get nothing against a small car. Guys got small cars. People got big trucks. You get one of these big old dually trucks and you get a little Honda car and you're trying to back up, and it's going to obstruct your vision, you know, because it's blocking you from getting a clear view. And a lot of times, you know, I always tell people, hey, you know, if you want to park a little bit further, you know what? Walk to I usually just kind of walk up to the store, you know, and give you a little distance. That way you can see. And a lot of times picking the best parking spot is where you can see or get in and out. You know, sometimes, you know, like you see a lot of these folks with these bigger SUVs, you know, they pull in, then somebody's pulled in beside them on their left and right, and they're having a heck of a time trying to get out there because they ain't got enough room. Well, a lot of times you might want to say, okay, and a lot of it is how you park. Sometimes it's better to back into the parking spot.
That's right.
And you know, now, you know, the cars now are coming up with cameras on the back, which is excellent technology. And I'm hoping that will reduce a lot of the improper backing in private property parking lots, and from even the hitting pedestrians and walking by. And some people, you know, they're going to the store, they ain't got a lot on their mind, and they might walk behind the car. So it's always good to look to your left and right.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm going to tell you, Wesley, the time really gets by here, and these are wonderful tips. And by all means, we want to definitely get you back on, or someone from the police department over the summer to kind of give us some more of the tip. But I want to thank you today for coming on the show and sharing this with us today.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Wesley. Okay.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back for more City Week in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining for City Week this week. My guests have been from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Rocky Miliband, and also from the LaGrange Police Department, Wesley Engel. Want you make sure that you take advantage of those safety tips they talked about as far as boating is concerned, also drinking and driving. And I want to say to all the graduating seniors of 2013, congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining for City Week. And as always, I want to invite you back for more of City Week.